Hi, stars. Welcome back. This is episode 13, lesson 13. And I thought it would be appropriate to talk about the moon because, Thursday the 13th and the moon and all that. Let me adjust this a little bit. All right, we're still. Okay. So, anyways, we have today being the 13th. It might be closer to the 14th by the time I get it uploaded. I have been at this all day. I want this video to be perfect. There's just so much information. It is going to be a little bit longer, but I'm only doing one video this week, so bear with me in the length. So, new stars and old stars, subscribe, like, share, and hit the bell notification icon so that you can come back and watch other videos as they come. Also, I'm going to go back. I'm going to start including not only the current video, but the last video in the series, in the description and the comment. So instead of just saying the last video, it's also going to say next video, and that way, as I get videos completed, I'll be able to add them to the series. Also, I want to let you know I made a new and exciting group. It's called We Are Live, and in parentheses, it has some words after that about notifications of when people go live for live streams and podcasts. But the main group to look for is We Are Live. I'll probably put a link to that in the description and comment today. It's for creators and for fans of creators. And if you're a fan and you have a creator you'd like to add to it, just go ahead and shoot me a message over there. Once you're in the group, it's Christopher Baird. I go by Chris, but it's Christopher. And just shoot me a message and we'll see if we can get a hold of your creator and have them join. And what it is for creators to pick a moderator and themselves, and when they go live, they can have that person put a live link in there. And for fans, it's a place where you go to that group and get notifications for when people go live. And you can check out many different things. We have a DJ in there. We have coffee chat type people. We have explorer type people. We have Bigfooters. We have paranormal group leaders. All kinds of stuff. And it's growing, and I expect it to grow well beyond what it is. So, with that said, we're here on the 13th, probably downloading by the 14th, to talk about the moon, Kingu Luna. Oh, one more thing before that. Alex Bobulinski is in that group as a creator. He's a friend of mine. His birthday is tomorrow. He'll be at the Mothman Festival this weekend. So if you're in the area of... Gosh, I had it written down somewhere. But anyways, if you're at the Mothman Festival, which I believe is in Virginia, check it out and give a shout out to Alex for me. He has the group Spectral Wolf Pack Paranormal on YouTube, and he has that group on Facebook. He also has Bigfoot Bob, which is a secondary channel. And he does a lot of collaborations with another friend of ours, Eric Connor, and Epic Paranormal. Also, Alex does Spectral Wolfpack Show on Spreaker app on Wednesdays, so check that out. I mean, that's in there. I have a bunch of other friends. We've got a family affectionately called Dumpster Dad. I think it's Dumpster Dad, Hometown Paranormal, or Paranormal Homes. Dumpster Dad's Paranormal Homestead. That's what it is on YouTube, and I'll probably be introducing them more in a future live stream. But lots of friends in there, Mary, Steve, Town, just so many. I can't go over it. We even have a new guy that's doing dream shows. So, anyways, Alex's birthday is tomorrow on the 14th, and mine is on Saturday. And during that live stream, love to see you guys there, showing support. Tell me happy birthday. I will have, I still do, Messenger Pay if anybody wants to donate to the cause for this, or me doing some fun with my sons. And then also, I will try to put links in the messages there for my not my Patreon, but my PayPal. I don't have Patreon yet, but I will soon. And the funny thing was, I was writing the dates on each of these papers, and I started writing August 08 for September, so that's funny. That's why you have a big 9 here, and I fixed it on some of the other papers. So let's dive into it. This is going to be a long video anyways. So we have Luna, which is the lesser known name for moon, but the way less known name is Kingu. And Kingu in Sumerian translations translates to essentially wanderer or traveler. Okay? And there is ancient historical documents to talk about a time before the moon was around the earth. Believe it or not, that's what there is. But let's dive, we're going to stick with the science part of it right now. What science tells us is that the way we got our moon was that Earth was sitting there and a rogue comet, planet, moon hit Earth and it superheated and it was like liquid and it came out all cooking, plunged back in, and then it separated again and we got our blue watery planet Earth and we got our rock looking Luna, the moon. I don't agree with that. I mean, obviously, the moon looks nothing like Earth. It looks like a destroyed rock-faced moon that has nothing to do with having water all over its surface and everything. Even with a microgravity, it should have some kind of atmosphere. We absolutely know that there's no atmosphere. And I've seen other channels that try to say there is atmosphere because they would see waves on the moon. Well, I'm here to tell you that's false news. What that is the atmospheric river at the top of the atmosphere, the very atmosphere that the rocket ships, when our rockets take off from the surface of the Earth, they hit this watery layer right before they enter space and the boosters come off, and it goes whoosh for about a second and a half. What was happening was people with telescopes were looking up through that, and when that water would kind of deform at the edge of the space from the upper winds, it would give it a wave-like appearance on the moon. And some people were so insistent with it that they ended up losing their websites and everything. But I'm here to tell you, it's just, that's all it is. It's what gives the blue, hazy appearance of Earth is that atmospheric river up there, as I allude to in my Sumerian Deluge hypothesis and stuff. And how it gets there is there's that primary vortex that goes down to the center star, primary vortex that does just atmosphere exchange, secondary vortex that also picks up some of that moisture as it goes down to the star. It goes way up in the upper atmosphere. It creates our auroras where the radiation contact coming in from our solar radiation is able to penetrate through the opening around the magnetosphere openings at the end of our poles and create the auroras. All right, so also with this, we have the sun and the earth, and we have a pinpoint shadow, and that creates the lunar eclipse, which science tells us now that is red because of bent curved light that goes around and makes it red. But prior to 2009, I'm here to tell you people, and I can tell you, talk to your grandparents, talk to your parents, ask them, was the moon always red during eclipses? They're going to say no. It was like a dismal gray. It's funny you ask. Why are you asking? Because they weren't. And it says in Revelations right there, a blood moon is a sign of the end times in Revelations. And so when that first happened, it was just prior to 2012, 2009. People were kind of freaked out, but then it continued to have blood lunar eclipses, and people were like, strange. And now you would never think that it was anything different before, but I remember that, and a lot of people I've talked to still remember the gray dismal eclipses. Okay, so moving on, we have our orbit of our moon. It goes every 27 3/4 days, give or take, around the Earth in an elliptical orbit. Sometimes this gives us 2 full moons in 1 month, and that is called a blue moon. It doesn't turn blue. Okay, there's nothing blue about it. It's just a rare occasion. So once in a blue moon, kiss your lover under a blue moon. That's what that is. And then when in elliptical orbit, it's at its peak out here on the daytime side of Earth. And it's the short end of the eggshell kind of in the orbit is closer to the backside of Earth. We get a thing called a supermoon. And we had one of the grandest, closest supermoons that we're going to have in a long time recently, combined with it being in the pinpoint shadow causing the eclipse. And just so you know, we don't always have an eclipse every month because sometimes the moon is above or below this pinpoint shadow. And if you talk to a flat earther, and you start mentioning the lunar eclipse, they're going to dodge to the solar eclipse. They're not going to talk to you about the lunar eclipse because, as you can see, it takes the sun, the earth, and its shadow to create a lunar eclipse. I've only heard one flat earther actually come at me and tossed me a video where the guy was claiming that this is a partially burnt out sun and it tries to illuminate once every 4 months, and it turns it to the red color, and then it turns itself back off again. And I thought, what? It dims down in color as we, into darkness, and it used to be dismal gray before it started being red. As it enters the shadow, it doesn't illuminate more and turn to different color. So, and you can see the shadow of Earth as it starts to go over the moon, the crescent shape of Earth. So, you'll notice that. That's all I'm going to say about that. So with that orbit, it has a couple different effects. One is weather. As the Earth, the moon is on this side of Earth, it brings us a little bit closer to the sun. Then in 2 weeks, it's brought us, or a little under 2 weeks, it's brought us a little further away from the sun. And then it travels around, it brings us closer again. Okay? And this has an effect on our weather with cooling trends, warming trends, cooling trends, warming trends, which also ramps up the polar vortex as the air cools more on the outside. We get more rapid winds as it warms up, and it equalizes in temperature. We're warmer outside. The winds slow down, our strong west-east vortex winds, so it slows down, speeds up, slows down, speeds up. So that's why we get storm buildups and then not. It's, times of calm and times of not. Also, let's see here. Got gravity. When we have the moon on the daytime side of the planet, and we're at work, and I've talked about this in previous videos, we have a lot more energy during the day. We have really productive days at work. By the time we get to nighttime, with the moon still on this face side while the planet has rotated, we get really tired and we're really dragged down, and we just get comfortable rest. During the time that it's a new moon, it's on this side of the Earth. But when it comes around to this side, those days are horrible at work, especially if it's the case of the Mondays. And there's a full moon on the backside of the planet. We're really dragged down. Gravity's pulling us down, and slowly as the day progresses, we feel like we have more energy. And we probably drank a whole bunch of coffee that day trying to stay awake too, right? So we have all this burst of energy, and we blame it on the coffee or whatever, but that's that extra boost of gravity as well, lifting us up on a full moon and giving us all that extra energy. And police officers, paramedics, people in the penal system, hospices, they know about this. I know about this because I used to work at a nursing home one time. I was just like, everybody's going crazy today. Everybody's finicky. The catatonic people are noisy. And the lady said, I guarantee you it's full moon. I don't know. I haven't checked. And this was pre-cell phone days. And I went outside, and sure enough, it was full moon. I came back in, and I said, what's that about? And she said, it just happens whenever there's a full moon. And I was like, because of the light? And she's like, well, I don't know. We just know it happens. And so now I know it's the extra tug of gravity. Something stuck in my head, something that I wanted to learn about. So, this is where we're going to break off from the science portion of the orbit and all of that. I've explained that now. Oh, no, one more thing. That's what I was thinking about earlier. When the moon goes around the Earth, like you're looking down, and this pen cap, okay, little pocket holder goes around, okay, it's always facing the Earth. My famous belly from the videos. Here's our cap. We'll put it facing you. Okay? So we'll call this the face of the moon. Alright? Take it around the back. It always is facing, okay? One portion of the moon is always facing the Earth. So I was the Earth in that scenario. And so what this means is we don't have a true dark side of the moon, but we do have a far side of the moon that we never see. Why is it not the dark side of the moon? Well, because the face is still facing us over here, the light is hitting the back side of the moon, the far side of the moon. And when it gets over here, same thing. This is our face of the moon facing here, and this is our face of the moon. So just something for you to know about that. What causes that? Well, as the moon entered our orbit on the Earth, okay, it was possibly more dense on one side. And because it's more dense on one side, it's kind of falling in gravity, but through momentum is also pushing outward. And the gravity itself is keeping it in line with the Earth, okay, and to where it always faces us. So now is where we're going to step outside and into mythology and hypothetical stuff. So the first thing I want to mention is my friend Tibor Gara. He's in Canada. He likes to do Earth to the moon and Earth to Mars telescoping from the ground. Home telescope, really powerful one though. He got this really cool picture. It was a picture of the moon, and on the moon, in the lower right-hand corner was this crater, and it had this structure-looking thing, and he was saying, well, I wonder if that's a tower or something. And I was like, that's a pretty cool picture. But up above was these lines, like shown here, and they were about 150, 200 miles wide and parallel all the way across the picture, okay? And in one of the craters, with a flat floor, okay, there was tire tracks. Seriously, tire tracks. And some people had mentioned this a long time ago and had read about it, and they said that those are welds and or tire tracks, but welds, and that the moon was constructed. And I don't believe that, but I do believe that these were actually tire tracks. They're about 25 miles wide with a 200 to 250 mile wheelbase, okay? And the center is so heavy that it gouges the surface of the moon when it goes over. And what this is that the Titans are on the moon, okay? Well, where did that come from? Well, remember in my video about 10 about the Titans and Tiamat being destroyed, they probably used the moon and constructed the hollow moon and built it into a life raft for their civilization. And they took the moon to Saturn, all right? And they inhabited Saturn as refugees, and they became our Greek mythology gods, but they are the Greek gods, okay? And then they came back to Earth, all right? And with the moon, flew it to Earth, and it became an orbit. And there was a time that was talked about before the moon came to Earth. And so this goes into line with a second hypothesis on the Sumerian flood deluge, and I wanted to get into that today. The one that I told you was about Marduk going around, the red Katchina, and a comet hitting Earth and pushing it up and causing that extra push of 60-degree tilt in the crust and changing the polar openings versus the normal 10. But it's quite plausible that when the Titans came with the moon, that it is what dragged it out and caused the collapse of the aquifer. Now, why did they come here? Well, this goes back to 2012 when I first did my first series, and I was only trying to prove the Bible and had heard about Hollow Earth, and I was like, this proves the Bible, this proves Adam and Eve, this proves this, and, you know, he got a hold of me and he's like, the Titans of Greek mythology came on the moon, parked here, and fought the Anunnaki over our souls and imprisoned them in 13 intercrustal prisons on Earth marked by the pyramids, so that humanity wouldn't be abused by the Anunnaki who were here mining gold. And by the way, some of them froze and are in Antarctica too. And that stuff's only starting to be leaked by Corey Goody. And so at the time I was like, what is this guy talking about? I kind of laughed about it. And I hope he sees this series, comes back and talks to me about it. Because, man, you really opened my eyes later as I began doing more research and understanding things. The idea is that on Venus, all right, inside the Venus, there is polar opening pictures. You can go look right now, polar vortex or polar vortex openings on Venus and Saturn. And the idea is that the Titans lived there, the Venetians lived on Venus, and they were being reborn. And instead of reincarnating, because they have their full use of their 100% of their brains, and so when they're born, they know who they were after a certain age of development. They know who they were in their previous lives, and as they get older, they'll go visit their old relatives while enjoying their new life and their new relatives. They were being reborn on Earth, and they were being born into human bodies who were either a human species that lived here but were DNA modified and changed to where we were born and not being able to understand where we were from in the past, or we were created from an ape species here according to Sumerian tablets, and then when they later mated with us, changed our DNA to where we can't remember the past. And so they came here as our defenders and fought the Anunnaki. And, the Sumerian tablets say that the Anunnaki knew that the flood was coming and that they decided to let nature take its course. But then one of the two opposing brothers saved one of the family and a bunch of the animals on the ship. And then they went ahead and put them in charge. And they are our arch negative royals and stuff like that. They were put in charge of newer slaves they created after. But it's quite possible that that might be a lie, because we do have the frozen Anunnaki reports in Antarctica with the advanced civilization of them mining gold with slave humans. One of the things in that video is that I had put that they were 12 feet tall, but they were up to in the 20-30 foot range for the most part, and slowly over time they have diminished to be about 12 foot tall by nature inside the planet. And they're reportedly locked in these intercrustal cities, and there are cultures that say the giants are locked in a city down there underneath like this dam in this one area. I can't remember, it was in the Middle East somewhere, that you could hear them wailing underneath this dam way underneath the ground. And we have the stories of the giant of Kandahar, the stories of the giants of Loch Love Cave, Nevada, the six-toed, six-fingered Anunnaki, giants that supposedly have escaped through caves and accidentally made the surface, and then they hunt at night and try to stay hidden, but eventually they're tracked down and killed by the government, who definitely doesn't want these things breaking free and getting to the surface to attack humans. And the Titans monitor all this up here too. They keep us safe from ourselves and from any outside influence. They do allow the Nephilim to collect gold from our governments, as they were from the Hopi Indians before, the Sky Brothers, who also traded salt with the ant people, who are a possible dino species. All right. So also, that brings up another whole hypothesis here. Oh, wait, no, that's not completely it. So what happened again is that the souls of humans are actually like Titans and Venetians, and we all feel like we don't belong here. We feel that in our insides. We've even said, I don't belong here. I don't feel right here. I feel like I'm in a prison. And essentially, you were born here. This isn't your real star soul family, okay? And if you go back to my video 3, I do talk about matter, space, and energy. Energy being the observer, inhabiter, and manipulator of all matter and space that works in circles, that is infinite, and that energy can exist in matter in lower frequencies and exist outside of matter in higher frequencies, and our goal should be to elevate and lift back outside of that again. But the whole point is that these souls were being born here and we're forgetting everything about their past. And there are children that are being born that are knowing what their past lives were, because they have a genetic flaw that actually has let them remember and use more of their brain. They have birthmarks that indicate where wounds were in their previous life. They're able to know details, in some cases actually meet these families, go in and say, I know where you have a birthmark, or you have a defect, or when you were sick before I was killed, or I died young, and I had to come back and tell you I loved you, and I didn't get that chance, so I took over the next incarnation. It's pretty outrageous when a 3-year-old walks in your house and tells you that, but that's what's reportedly happening to people. So this other hypothesis was just something I read about 10 years ago, was that our moon was actually a moon on a planet 27 planets out. It was a dying species. The gray reptilians were on it. It came here. It was parked here. They live in intercrustal cities and also live on the moon, and they're the ones on the moon. I don't believe that. I believe that the grays, the ant people, the reptilians, whatever you want to call them, I believe that they were a dinosaur species. They evolved for millions of years before humans were ever intellectually smart. They've been around way longer than us, and look what we've done only in a couple hundred years with our technology and reversing technology. Imagine what they were able to do over millions of years. And so the idea is that they survived the impact that killed the dinosaurs, which in one of the videos, the one on the flood and deluge, when I said it hit the Gulf of Mexico and created, I meant killed the dinosaurs and started expanding the Pacific Ocean faster. I believe that they've always been here and always will be. They can't come out at night because they've lost skin pigmentation. And so let me make sure, because I had to write a list. I'm telling you, I've been at this all day. So this brings us back to this red lunar eclipse, okay? And I want to tell you an amazing story. I'm sorry if I'm tired. I've been sick the last few days, and then I've been at this all day. But before I get into that, I had forgotten one thing here too. Not only did I see Tiber Gora's picture of the parallel lines, I also at that time stumbled across a photo, and unfortunately I didn't get it because Facebook reset like it does sometimes, and I couldn't get back to find it, but it was a picture of a crash site on the lunar surface with big giant footprints and about 2 or 3 mile gaps in between. Again, land-based telescopes, about 100 tracks, but they didn't go anywhere else on the surface. They were all in that one area, and they looked like they had come out of a ship that had landed, had walked over, walked around this craft, had inspected it, and had gone back in, gone to a craft, and had taken back off from the surface, maybe even possibly saving those beings. So, alright, so what happened here is around 2009 again was when I started noticing and everybody was told about this upcoming blood eclipse, and we were all pretty excited about this. But around 2013 to 2015, I don't know what summer it was, but I do know the date was on June 7th or 8th. I was going to set that into my camera that day, so I remember that was etched to my stone. I want to swear this was 2013, but maybe 14. Not any later than that. I walked outside, my sons were playing, and that's another indicator of when this was because they were very young. It was the first time I let them play outside for a few minutes in the summer. And I walked outside, and I looked up, and I was about right here on my porch, and I thought I saw a ball in a tree, like an earth ball, fully illuminated reddish orange ball. And I said, whose ball is that in the tree? But then the tree moved in the wind, but the ball didn't. So I walked past the tree, and I was like floored. Something out of Star Wars. Here was this big reddish orange glowing ball about the size of a dime or a penny in the sky. And as I got to this point right here, looked left, there was a crescent moon further to the southwest in the sky, and it was about the size of a $50, quarter to a $50, huge. And yet here was this red ball, and the red ball was a little bit higher on the horizon than the moon was. The moon was a little bit lower, and this was just slightly to my northwest, and this is far to my southwest. And I would estimate a 1.5 to 2 visual feet between the two up in the sky, if that at all. And if this is a 2D plane, so if to my west directly would be the horizon is 12 o'clock, the mountains would be 12:30. I couldn't see them from my porch in Kent because there's buildings here. Then there's the buildings, the garage, the upper level, and so on. And the top of it, I would say, is about 3-4 o'clock. These were at about the 5 to 6 o'clock position, and I'm going from 12-hour clock to the whole window of the Earth from point A to point B. So while this was at maybe 6 o'clock, the sun was somewhere behind us at about 10 o'clock in the sky, because it was also about 9, 10 in the morning. And I remember I wanted to get a picture of it. I showed my sons. I was blown away, and they were like, "What is that, Dad?" And I was like, "Make sure you remember this, because you're never going to see this again. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a reflection of the sun." I said, "Boys, I'm going to go get a camera." And I went in. My camera was dead. It was at one of the times, like I talked about in my video number 1, where my phone had gone kaput and I had to order a new one, and the one I had wasn't working good, so I couldn't take pictures on it. So I went inside. I got busy making lunch, called the boys in. They came inside to eat lunch. By the time I got the camera and had it all charged and went out, this was long gone. The moon had already set over the mountains as the crust had kept, rotating. I couldn't see this in the sky anymore. And what I saw was this was definitely beyond the mist. The mist was in front of it. It was very cloudy and hazy, but fully illuminated in red and looked a lot like Mars. But again, Mars can't be that because we have the sun, Earth, and Mars would be back over here somewhere. So this was something in our visual perspective on the day side of Earth, but more looking west with the moon to our southwest and the sun back to the east behind us. And so that would put it about right here and here visually from Colorado, looking west visually with the sun somewhere over here on this side. And so, yeah, I don't know exactly what it is. I had some thoughts about it. Again, reflection of our sun on the upper atmosphere, or maybe Venus or Mercury. Venus is pretty cloud covered, but Mercury possibly being magnified through the outer atmosphere enough to be seen, but that's so small. How could it be a dime size in relation to the moon? And why wouldn't the moon be 10 times that big if we were... It would have to be super duper huge, like the size of like this, compared to this, if it was magnifying like that. So that couldn't have been the case. So then I thought, well, what about this red eclipse just showing up pretty recently within the last few years? And I thought, if the sun is being blocked and the moon is in the pinpoint shadow, there could be a secondary solar daytime object shining its light on the surface of the moon, which would mean in the orbit around the sun that there's an object that is almost the same speed as our orbit, just slightly different, to where we're always orbiting at the same speed, okay? And that over time, it works its way around the backside of the sun and we can't see it, and it's so close to the sun we don't usually see it. But perhaps on that day, it had come to the point where it was more direct and out to the side of the sun, to where we could see it off at an angle from where the sun was in our daytime sky. And it could be what's giving off color here. So you decide for yourself. I'm telling you this is what we saw. So you could come back to me and say, well, I think it was this or I think it was that. I would love to see a comment. But tell me also what you think about my hypothesis. Do you think that there's a secondary object? We named it affectionately Obliteron, me and the boys. I named it after my dad, Ron, and my son, Ronald. And my son, Tristan, is kind of warrior type. And, the fact that it's like mentioned in Revelations as the end time thing, I thought Obliteron was just a great name for it. If there is such a thing as this secondary solar object near our sun, and it's not Marduk or not Nibiru, it could have been one of them, but it didn't look to me like any kind of pockmarked surface, anything. It was just glowing red, more like Mars to me, but it's definitely had its own little halo around it, So that wraps up this video. Like always, please like, subscribe, share, hit the bell notification icon. Again, I'm going to try to put previous videos, including some of the live streams for the gems that are hidden in them. Go back and reorganize that. In the description and top comments, I will try to link also the We Are Live channel. Alex's birthday tomorrow, and then mine is on Saturday. So I look forward to seeing you guys during that live stream. Peace, and have a wonderful day. Thanks, guys.